A reporter. Now, as the world's attention has been focused on dealing with a deadly pandemic, there's a big developing story from Asia, as China's parliament today backed a hugely controversial security legislation for Hong Kong, which many people say could curtail human rights in what was, of course, the former British territory. Kerry Allen is a BBC China media analyst. Kerry, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How significant is this development from China?
Extremely significant, and already we've been seeing Dominic Raab has responded to this and has said that he's going to offer visa extensions to people from Hong Kong to the UK. This is going to also mean that hundreds of people are now going to take to the streets of Hong Kong again, as we saw last year, because people don't want these. Well, a number of people don't want these increased controls from Beijing in Hong Kong. I mean, we saw yesterday that more than 300 people were arrested. People feel very, very passionately about this because they see it as a way of Beijing trying to rein Hong Kong in, even though it has what's known as the one country, two systems in place. It has basic law, which means that its own government is somewhat different to that of the rest of China.
But as you said, you mentioned it there, is it the effective end of one country, two systems? Are the same laws now going to apply in Hong Kong as they do in China, certainly when it comes to criticism of the government and the Communist Party, and also the right to protest?
Very much so, yes. I mean, this law, what it can signify is that anybody who is classed as, what it now says is that people who disagree with communist rhetoric, they can be treated as separatists, and effectively, I mean, in mainland China, that can carry a life sentence. So it's the idea that it's a way of reining people in with the rest of China as the mainland. And people do feel very passionately about this. But at the same time, I should stress that there have been a number of voices within Hong Kong who've been showing their support for this and saying that, because what people have been seeing within mainland China is just the violence. They've not seen, because of censorship, they've not seen some of the peaceful protests. And they see this as affecting the economy and affecting just people's personal safety. So Beijing has been putting out this rhetoric that this is acts of terrorism happening within Hong Kong, but also people are saying that there is an economic impact to this, and there has to be an enhancement of these laws in order to make the situation more stable.
And what about international criticism? You mentioned Dominic Raab. Mike Pompeo, the US Secretary of State, put a shot across the bows last night, but ultimately Beijing will get its way, won't it?
Probably, yes. I mean, it's also been showing that it's got the support of other countries. So, for example, today Cambodia's Deputy Prime Minister put out a statement saying that Cambodia fully supports China in advancing this national legislation. And China has been stressing all along that Hong Kong is a part of China. I mean, this phrase that I saw going back to last year that kept on being repeated in lots of media propaganda and posters and campaigns was Hong Kong is China's Hong Kong. And so China basically sees this as an internal affair. It says very much like here in the UK, we have people who approve Scottish independence. It's saying that that's your situation, this is our situation, and we are allowed to deal with this in any way we see fit.
Indeed, that's a story which will certainly rumble and have global repercussions. That's Kerry Allen, BBC China media analyst.